I'm joined today by Phyllis Schlafly. She is an American constitutional lawyer, a conservative activist, an author, and also founder of the Eagle Forum. Ms. Schlafly, a pleasure to have you as always. I want to talk today about welfare and about the minimum wage, and I think maybe a good place to start is to get your assessment of how big you feel the the amount of welfare benefits in this country is. How big of a thing is that?
Well, are you sitting down?
I'm
It's
sitting. I'm
nearly
sitting.
$1 trillion a year,
A trillion.
and there are 79 different federal programs handing out cash or benefits, and they're going to nearly half of the American people. And I think one of the purposes of why I'm bringing this up is for people to understand what we talk about as our hidden welfare program. People, it is hidden. Nobody knows there's 75. When they talk about welfare, most people just need the one of the 79, which is called TANF. You probably know what those initials stand for, temporary relief or whatever. But that's only one of 79. They get food stamps, they get housing benefits, they get child care, they get EITC, which we now know is ridden with fraud. And there are all sorts of benefits, cash benefits, which incidentally are not taxed. They're not counted in whether you meet the poverty level or whether you pay income tax or not. And I think it's very important to get these issues out on the table so people understand where their money is going.
I think it is important, and I didn't expect to necessarily kind of get bogged down in the numbers, but I think I would be doing a disservice to the audience if I didn't kind of counter the idea that $1 trillion is the right number. And respectfully, Ms. Schlafly, I've researched this in detail, and it seems to me that the trillion number has been one that has become a favorite distortion of those who are against these programs. And I'll explain and give you an opportunity to tell me if you disagree. If we really look at actual welfare programs, I think that in that we really include, as you mentioned, the Earned Income Tax Credit. We look at temporary assistance to needy families, SSI, food stamps, housing vouchers, and the child tax credit. That's $212 billion. A lot of the things that individuals on the right are including in that $1 trillion number are not really welfare. For example, the cost of adoption services. That it's not fair to say that that is welfare. Title I grants, Head Start. That number has been drastically over-exaggerated.
Well, I would challenge you on Head Start, because now even the government's report has shown that it's a failure, because all of the so-called alleged good effects are gone by the end of kindergarten.
But that's a different issue. Whether or not it's an effective program is separate from whether we call it welfare or not. And widely speaking, we can't really call Head Start welfare. A different conversation is whether we think it's a good program or not.
Well, we can call it cash or benefit handouts to a large percentage of our population based on their estimated poverty level, which is a level set by the government.
Oh, certainly we can kind of wordsmith it, but I think as we move forward, I'll at least make it clear to my audience that I completely disagree with the $1 trillion characterization, and I've gone into it in detail. However, this is the really interesting thing, Ms. Schlafly. Even though you've not been over the last many years an advocate of increasing the minimum wage, from what I've read, you're not totally opposed to it because you think that it may actually allow us to reduce the amount of welfare benefits that are paid out. Am I characterizing that properly?
Well, I think I would say I'm floating this as an idea.
Okay.
Because I think people do not realize the extent and the amount of the cash and benefits that flow tax-free to such a large percentage of population. That's why some people refer to it, and Robert Rector, who's the authority on this subject, refers to it as a hidden welfare.
Well, yeah.
So that's one thing that needs to get out on the table. And the other thing is the immense amount of fraud in it, particularly in EITC, which is a program that's been supported by both Republicans and Democrats.
No, you mentioned that, but specifically my question was, it seems like you're taking what is actually a pretty progressive and liberal position, which is if we do increase the minimum wage and elevate the wage that those who earn the least are taking in on a monthly or yearly basis, it will actually be fiscally conservative in the sense that by pulling people out of poverty, we will reduce the amount of government benefits paid. It sounds like you're coming very close to that assessment.
Well, it ought to. I can't predict. Chances are they may move the minimum wage line. They may find ways to hand out the money anyway. But it ought to. If your income increases, you should be entitled to fewer cash-free benefits.
Absolutely. So in other words, you're agreeing that it would be a favorable result to the conservatives that typically oppose increases to the minimum wage, because if you do increase it, the government would reduce the amount of so-called welfare benefits paid. I'm surprised you've come to this realization, but so many of your cohorts on the right don't seem to understand this fundamental principle.
Well, that's why I wrote the column.
Well, good.
And I cannot predict that the Obama administration is going to allow reduction of any benefits. I am not a predictor. However, the arithmetic shows that if you raise the legitimate income,
right,
you should be reducing the government handouts.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
It should be an arithmetic problem, but of course it will become very political.
Well, we're agreeing quite a bit here, Ms. Schlafly. Let me follow up and see if we can even further our agreement. Do you agree that when we look at the stimulative effect of different government spending, so if we compare, for example, tax cuts for the richest Americans versus government spending on food stamps, do you agree with all of the research that shows that food stamps have a far higher multiplier effect in the economy than, for example, the same amount of money going to a tax cut for wealthy Americans, most of which is just saved and doesn't stimulate the economy? Do we agree on that?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
In other words, let me reframe it. If the government spends $10 million on food stamps, that $10 million is absolutely going to be put back into the economy. The grocery stores will get some of that money. The food growers who supply the grocery stores get some of that money.
That's true.
It's very stimulative. However, if we compare that with a $10 million tax cut for the wealthiest Americans, 2/3 or more of that $10 million gets socked away in bank accounts, not stimulating the economy.
Well, I'm sure that's true.
So you agree that food stamp spending is far more stimulative than tax cuts for the rich?
Well, for people who count our economy by the amount of money that people spend, that would be true.
Wow. I have to tell you, Ms. Schlafly, this is so different than the last time you were on our program talking about immigration. We're finding so many agreements. I feel like your economic points of view are becoming more and more progressive these days.
I don't know about that.
Well, I call it like I see it. Okay, well, we've been speaking with Phyllis Schlafly. She is an American constitutional lawyer, conservative activist, although she's sounding very progressive to me, and also founder of the Eagle Forum. Ms. Schlafly, always a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you. You have a good day, and my website is eagleforum.org.
Okay, we will visit it. Thank you.